Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the third lesson of EoF School, organized and hosted by Business and Peace Village. My name is Gala, and today we're going to be discussing arms industry. This session is going to be in English. Please feel free to ask any questions after the chat, and we will try to reply to as many questions as possible. The theme of today's session, as you know, is dedicated to current overview and possible solutions for a more peaceful planet. Conflict zones, refugees, polarization. We're living an age of disruption. Currently, there are over 50 active conflicts on a global scale. With ongoing conflicts entering into 2023, the coming year looks set to continue the upward trend in incidents of explosive weapon use. Actors will remain actively embroiled in the complex conflicts which have to come to characterize this decade, and in which state actors and their non-state proxies fight on multiple fronts, often in or near to populated civilian areas. The human and economic costs of these crises and disasters are not equally shared. The countries on the 2023 list are home to just 13% of the global population, yet they account for 90% of people in humanitarian need and 81% of the people who have been forcibly displaced. South Sudan, Haiti, Ukraine are only one of these examples. Decreased investment, trade, and productivity, along with human and physical capital destruction, is really damaging the current society that we live in. These are some of the key channels through which conflicts impede economic growth. As our statement says, we believe that peace must be an ongoing also in business. This includes education, responsibility, awareness, and justice, focused on the development of sustainable environment, condemning wicked investments. A peace economy does not include weapons or profit-only maximizing businesses. We're more than honored today to have with us Professor Jordi Calvo, an academic and a lecturer on peace, conflicts, and security. With him also, we have Uwakmfon Joshua, a Rondine Cittadella della Pace student that is coming from Nigeria, and she's going to talk about Leaders for Peace campaign that they're conducting for over a couple of years already. In order to have the best possible lesson, we kindly ask speakers to respect time assigned to them. So we're going to have 15 minutes for each of you. And we urge the audience to mute the microphones and to ask questions related to the topic in the chat below, to which we will respond at the end of the lesson. At this point, Professor Ufanges, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Hello, and thank you. Thank you very much for your invitation. I'm going to share a short presentation for my intervention that can help to understand the message and the objective of the presentation. Let me put it as it should be. Okay, I think now we can see it well, all of us. All right. Okay, so what I would like to share with you during these 15 minutes is a question that always um, we always ask ourselves, when we see that there is a war, that probably wars, they exist for many reasons. There are many causes, but there is a factor that is always um, um, influencing in a way that is encouraging um, some people, some groups with interest to encouraging politicians or or deciders, people who make decisions related to war. They are. I'm sorry. Can I ask you to mute your session? I don't know who is, because I'm listening some noises. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I was saying that I wanted to explain here that wars, they are really influenced the origin of in the decision of going to war. We see that it should be the influence of some actors that they get profit of this reality, that we have everywhere and always, and that probably working on that direction in this sector that is part of the economy, we could reduce the number of wars, or we could avoid many of them. Oh, sorry. So here in this map, we can see the list of in a map, all the countries in red that they have been in armed conflict, following the University of Barcelona, the Autonomous University of Barcelona. And in this orange, we have the countries that they have been in tension. That means that in a year, we have around 30 or almost 40 armed conflicts in the war. And we have many others in tension that can become a war. With all this situation, we introduce the aspect of the origin of the funds that are helping, that are making possible that we have resources for to fill the war, the wars, to fill the all the armed groups that they need all this money to buy weapons, or to pay themselves, to get paid themselves for the military action, and all the armies, of course. And we can see in this graph that this is the evolution of the military spending. Today, in fact, is the day when we making public the data of 2022, the military spending by the Stockholm Peace Institute, by SIPRI. So today we know that it went a bit up than it is here. And we see in the graph the evolution of the military spending during the last 70 years, how it's going up. You see that it went down at the end of the Cold War, and then it went up. And the military spending is the part of the budget that we, in every country, we put for military purposes, to pay the armies and also to buy weapons. And who is spending more in related to militaries? So we have United States as the main, as you can see in this graph from the International Peace Bureau and the Global Campaign on Military Spending. And then the second is China, and the third, you see Russia is very far from the United States. Now with the war in Ukraine, it's true that Russia and some other countries in Europe, they increase even more the military spending, but the distance between the US and the others is still very big. But you can see here the design in the map of the main spenders in military spending, investing more in the military economy. And here we can see in this graph the evolution of the arms exports. Part of the military economy is what is export, is sold to other countries every year related to weapons from the arms companies. And you can see that the evolution is also going down at the end of the Cold War and then going up little by little, mainly since the 2001 when the attacks in New York. So you see that it's kind of similar to the military spending graph. Here we see also what countries are exporting more in green and what countries are importing more weapons in red. This design is more or less the same every year with the small changes. And you can see here Europe, United States, and Russia, and who is buying? People more in the global south, and who is selling the countries that they also they are spending more in military spending. So then we need to see the graph related to the evolution of the armed conflicts in the war in the world, and we can see that the evolution also is going down when we finish the Cold War and then going up, mainly since 2001. So if it is the number of armed conflicts following the University of Uppsala in Sweden. And here, if you can see the three graphs together, we can have an idea of the correlation that it seems that exists between more money for military and for weapons, more arms exports, and more wars, more armed conflicts. We cannot say what is first, but anyway, three of them, they are happening together. And related to that, we work in my organization, and with other organizations, we work in a campaign that is trying to make awareness of this reality, and is trying to make the link between the companies that they are getting profit from armed conflicts and the banks that are financing these companies, because the economy related to military is really taken from everywhere, and banks, the regular banks, also they are participating in this economy. So we have this report that you can find in English. The report financing the weapons of the Yemen war, for instance. We have many others that you can find in our website. And in that report, we were trying to learn what countries were exporting weapons to Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates during this period that you can see here, 2015, 2018, when the war started, since the starting of the war until 2018. And we saw what countries they were exporting weapons to the two main countries that are bombing and attacking in Yemen with airplanes that are bought in Europe, with bombs that are bought in Europe and in US, etc., etc. And we know that, no? We know that even they are bombing the schools, or they are bombing hospitals and all that, no? As what's said by United Nations and Amnesty International, Doctors Without Borders, and many other NGOs. Here we see the type of arms exported to Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates. We see that there are aircraft, missiles, armored vehicles, defense systems, and some others. Following the tracking that weapons they came, we saw that they were produced by Airbus, General Dynamics at the time, Boeing, Thales from France, Rolls-Royce, Navantia from Spain, Leonardo from Italy, Raytheon from US, or Rheinmetall from Germany. So they are the main companies that we saw that they were selling weapons to that country, because that were the weapons that they got during this period. And we see here some of the banks that they were financing that companies during the same period of time. These are the banks from Spain in this infographic. We have also another one that is international, maybe BBVA, they are well known, Santander or Bankinter or Mediolanum, that I think is from Italy. And here we have the list of banks that they were financing these companies during this period of time, that they are from everywhere. You can see always BlackRock everywhere. You know, BlackRock could be the main bank or investment fund that is buying everything that they can buy everywhere, houses, etc., but also weapons. Also, they are helping the arms companies to get profit. Then we have many from the United States, as you can see, or from France. Also, we have some others from Europe, from different countries in Europe. And then we can see some of them maybe we can know in the countries where we are, or they are very well known, like BNP, Barclays, or we have insurance companies like AXA, we have Santander, we have the Unicredit from Italy, we have Allianz, also an insurance company from Germany, Chinese banks from everywhere. Then this year, we just published this report that is called Financing Militarization and the Border War in the Mediterranean, that is also trying to speak not about the traditional war, is trying to put in the list of what needs to be avoided, or that we humans and societies, not from power, from the people, what we want to avoid, what we that we don't have interest and we want to make changes in the world, is putting attention in the traditional wars that we have in the list that we saw before, but also in these other wars that are probably being some of the main human rights violations, the more horrible human rights violation of our era. That is the war that we have in the borders. For instance, the part that we can see about the borders in Europe, in the south of Europe or in the north of Africa, we can see that the Mediterranean Sea every year, they have thousands of victims of people dying because of the difficulties that they find to cross to the other part. And these difficulties are put by ships, warships, or militarization of the borders. We have patrols, we have fences, we have surveillance systems, we have militaries at the border going looking for migrants, like as they were an armed group coming to our countries. And what they are creating is a very, very risky transit from Africa to Europe. And we don't know the number of people that they are dying every year in the Mediterranean Sea. We just know some of them. And who are responsible of that? The same governments that they are making the decisions of making really, really difficult crossing the border and pushing the boats, the small boats, to have longer trips that they are putting on risk their lives. So we have the political decisions, and then also we have what they put there to stop them. That is people armed, like let's say armies and police, borders police, and people from Frontex, for instance, the border police from Europe, or they are hiring with contracts, so paying the border police from other countries, even that they respect even less the human rights than the other polices, like the police from Libya, for instance. So they are really producing a lot of victims every year. So this is the border war, what we call border war. And there are companies that they are getting profit of this militarization of the border between Europe and Africa, or the border between US and Mexico, or the border in many other places, the borders in many other places of the world. And we check what companies are financing these, what banks they are financing these companies, and you can see that they are more or less the same banks. No, we still have BlackRock, we still have Deutsche Bank, we have BNP Paribas, we have, as you can see here, some of the main banks in the world, the big banks in every country, and then the same companies, showing that at the end, all this repression that is done from this approach of taking, of responding to some of the threats that they are identified to our security, and they identify as a threat, obviously, the armed conflicts, but sometimes migrations and sometimes other aspects. The response that we are giving is the response, the military response. And when we are deciding to give a military response for everything, we are really making bigger and bigger the military complex, the industrial military complex that before they were only producing weapons. Now they are producing surveillance systems, and also they are developing private armies, private security companies. And with all together, they are becoming really, really big companies that are, besides that, getting support and all kind of products that are helping them to make their business from banks and insurance companies. And just to finish the presentation, I wanted to also to insist in how important is identifying what our bank is doing, because at the end, our bank is giving these loans or helping that companies to make more investments and to produce more with our money in some way. So we can make the decision of changing from a bank that is investing in weapons or investing in border wars, going to an ethical bank. And we have some options. We have ethical banks that are not taking part of the war system or of the military complex. These banks, the ethical banks, for instance, I have different names that maybe they come to my mind, but the more well-known in Spain and in Italy, for instance, would be Banca Etica Popolare, that they are the same bank in Italy, and in Spain the name is Fiare Banca Etica. And we have around 20 different ethical banks in Europe that are an option. They are working in the same way as many other. And we saw in the presentation how big is the problem. We saw that it's something that we're really against. Who cannot be against of all that? But also we need to see that there is something to do, and we can do it with the decision of where we put our money. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Yes, it's definitely interesting that you mentioned Banca Etica, because of course it's crucial to understand where does our money go, because I think that for decades we weren't really aware of the fact that by simply putting money into certain bank is just giving the credit to the bank to then take decisions that are related to fossil fuels, to weapon industry, and so on and so forth. So yeah, that's definitely a great example, and I hope that Banca Etica is going to become even more popular, because it's crucial also to start already at age of 18 to invest and open accounts in banks as such. Now, I wanted to ask you a question. In your research, No Business Without Enemies, which is very interesting, and we also downloaded it as handouts for our lesson, so I urge the audience to read a bit more about it. But what I found interesting is how you mentioned that military security leads to creating a narrative that portrays a world dominated by fear and mistrust. So it also has to do a lot with propaganda. Do you mind giving us a couple of examples and maybe some instruments that we can use as common people in this matter?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In fact, what is behind that the explanation is that if you are someone working in an arms company, or you are the owner of an arms company, what you are trying to do is to get profit in the future. So you need to prepare the market for the future. So for arms company, the best option is having wars. Yeah, but anyway, it's hard to say or to think. It's really hard to think, even to think that they are promoting wars. But at least we could say that what I'm sure they are promoting is the need in society to feel that we need to protect ourselves, that we have enemies all the time, and increasing enemies that we feel fear, and everything needs to be managed from a perspective of the defending from the others, and having enemies everywhere. Migrants, they are enemies. the question of climate change. This is a question of yeah, we need more weapons to be defended in case you never know what is going to happen. So anything that can happen needs the same response, and for them it's perfect if they can convince us that that the best response to anything is more weapons, more military, and more militarization. That's what is making their business. This business really with future. The business will have future, and they will have more business in the coming years. And I think they succeed. They succeed because we can see that most of the decisions that are made in this direction, and this is called securitization. Let's say that the term, the theoretical term that is coming from security studies, from the School of Copenhagen, is securitization. Everything needs a security response, like COVID. We had a pandemic and we were putting military on the street. But no, it's not about that. In fact, no, we need to put more health system, or we need to put more humanitarian assistance, or we need to invest more in education, or we need to invest more in policies for development and cooperation in the world. We need to reduce inequalities, and we need to help other countries to have better systems, political systems, and better economies to stay happy and with opportunities in their country, and not being forced to run away to other countries, to Europe or to US. So these are the options. No, I think that we people, what we need to do is to really try to understand that is something that is not decided by regular people. It's decided by very few people, that they try to make us thinking that we are really threatened, and if we identify the threats, with the real threats that they can affect our lives, the real threats in the security doctrines of every country, if you see them, you see that they are related to health, they are related to economy, they are related to many other aspects that they need a response from our societies. But the response, they are not the military security. The response are what we call the human security. If we want to have more security, we need more education, and we need more opportunities to work. We need more investment in what we call the social part of a country. And I think we need to shift. No, we need to have this critical thinking, to not be manipulated by the messages coming from the top and saying, no, you're saying that, but I know that this is not the solution. The solution is the proposals that are talking to have, let's say, a more democratic, a better social system. So reducing military spending and asking politicians to reduce military spending, or opting for the political options that they are promoting, the cuts on military spending, for me, it means that we'll have more money for other things. This is the cost of opportunity. If we put the money that we have is not is limited. So it is limited. If we put it here, we cannot put it there. If we put more money now for weapons, we have less for health. And this is what we can see that is happening in Europe and in many other countries.
Thank you very much. Now, before we pass to Ms. Joshua, do you mind telling us, giving us a couple more information about your organization? When did you create it exactly, and maybe what were the major difficulties, but yet also major achievements that you had so far?
Okay, I can talk about my organization in Barcelona, that is Center de las Four Peace Studies. I put it here in my name for you to know that this organization was created in the year 1999 in Barcelona to try to identify and to make awareness about how important was the influence of the military complex in creating policies that they were taking us closer to war and not to peace. We propose that reducing being prepared to peace means reducing the military part and having more energy, putting more energy in the social part. and you can see, if you go to the website, that our way of working is more done in like a think tank. And some people they say that we are like a pacifist think tank, and I think we need a lot of thinking coming from a different place, because we in the news we always have the same people speaking. It's people from the government, people from the army, people from NATO, people from the European Union, people from these top positions, or think tanks that are the traditional think tanks that they are really not proposing something different. And I think we need a lot having young people using their time and energy to write, to speak, to give conferences, to get to write articles, write books, and to really create this different thinking based in different values. And what we try to do is to offer this platform to whoever wants to really share with the society the thinking that she or he has related to the world that needs to be changed. But the only thing that we ask is that we really are pacifist, that we really struggle to find a solution to things that are not using violence. And when we try, we find them. In fact, the easy response to things is the traditional easy response that is coming, that is said, we have a problem, we send the police. We have a problem, we send the army. No, there are many other things happening at the same time, and many other ways to solve conflicts that they don't imply using violence.
Thank you so much. I'm very glad that you mentioned a couple of times as one of the plausible solution education. So now we can pass the word to Miss Joshua, who is a student in an international organization called Rondine Citadel of Peace. And I think that's one of the plausible and concrete examples of young people actually doing something about peace building and conflict resolution worldwide. So the floor is yours, Mrs. Joshua.
Thank you so much, Gala. Thank you so much, Professor Jordi, Calvo. I really enjoyed your session and I've learned a lot as well. Thank you for sharing this knowledge. My name is Uwakmfon Joshua and I'm Nigerian. I'm a student of the Senior Fellow of the World House program here in Rondini, Città della Pace. And Rondini is an organization that, according to what Gala said, that promotes conflict management in a very, very practical form. And it's not just theoretical, we are living the experience here in Rondini. We have over 30 students from 12 countries living together and sharing their experiences, which is a very interesting one and not biased as the media, as Professor Jordi had mentioned. My experience here has been very unique because I get to understand what is happening in the other side of the story, what is really happening in the countries where we have wars and we have conflicts as well. And there is a philosophy that we are being guided in Rondini, which says that the other person, which we consider as the enemy, is actually not an enemy. It's seeing the human in the other person and understanding that the only enemy that we have is war. So this is the philosophy that Rondini tries to propagate and inculcate in each and every one of us as students. And it's very practical because here we've had students, Palestinian, Israeli students, Russian, Ukrainian students sit together and have conversations about what is going on and trying to understand what is going on in the other side where the media has not been able to put forth. So there are no biases here. It is how it is, you see it, and then you dialogue with this person that you're supposed to dialogue with, you're in conflict with, and then try to see the future of the solution for this particular problem, which tallies with the theme of this program, disarmament. And the beautiful thing about Rondini is we are not just advocating for armed disarmament, but we are also talking about the usefulness of education. So we are trying to target the pre and pro conflict and pre-conflict, preventing conflict by being informed, educating the masses, and also after conflict, post-conflict. So this is the uniqueness of Rondini strategy of peace. Yeah. So.
Thank you so much, Joshua. So tell us a bit more about this global campaign that Rondini has been working on for already a couple of years, Leaders for Peace campaign. What is it? What does it, how does it work? When did it start? What is the main objective of it?
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think I would have to go give a brief intro of what this campaign is all about. In December 2018, 70 years after the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and a century after the end of the First World War, Rondini students and alumni launched an appeal to the entire world to take a first step towards decisive positive shift concerning human rights at the global level. And with the Leaders for Peace campaign, Rondini asked each of the 193 member states to devote a symbolic sum from its defense budget to the training of as many young global peace leaders. These new leaders will be able to intervene in the world's most complex conflict scenarios, promoting the development of pacified social and political relations. Rondini also asked each UN member state to consider including education on human rights in national education systems, integrating it with the Rondini method for the creative transformation of conflicts. The objective is the gradual extinction of war context from the world through the affirmation of a new culture capable of unmasking the false concepts of enemy, and of spreading among all citizens the skills to positively transform conflicts by integrating the teaching of Rondini's method with human rights. Invited by the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Italian representative to the United Nations, Rondini launched the campaign and the appeal in an international event held at the United Nations headquarters in New York on December 10, 2018. 1 year after, in 2019, Rondini students came back to the UN to demonstrate that what initially appeared as a wishful dream was instead becoming reality. During its first year, the campaign received the endorsement of the President of Italy, Mattarella, and of His Holiness Pope Francis. Moreover, the Italian Prime Minister officially signed the appeal, and the 2019 UN event has been co-sponsored by the delegations of Armenia, Jordan, the European Union, by the Office of the UN's Secretary General's Envoy on Youth, and with the participation of Sierra Leone. In 2022, the president of Rondini, Franco Vaccari, had the honor to present the campaign to the UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, in New York. So that is like a brief history of what the campaign is all about.
And how many countries? So you mentioned the different countries that actually signed the agreement. So can you tell us a bit more about how does it work, and also explain us a bit better how is it to live with an enemy, and how is it to, as Professor mentioned before, there are so many different activities and so many different realities, companies and governments that work towards violence prone society, yet so little organizations that are also known on international scale that do the good work, bring forth the peace building. So tell us a bit more about the actual life in Rondini, living with the enemy. Like, what are the dynamics?
Okay, thank you. I think I would answer the very first question before the dynamics, and then the part of the NGO. So we have not just countries, we also have leaders who have supported or accepted this campaign. And for the countries, we have Italy, Costa Rica, and we have more countries who would come up with acceptance or more like work together with us to promote this campaign. And then for leaders, we have the Pope Francis, and the president of the European Economic and Social Committee, who has also endorsed this campaign. And for the second question, how easy it is to live with an enemy. Okay, this is why I mentioned that it is a very practical step, because when you arrived in Rondini, I want to read a quote first that would probably directly answer this question, and then I'll add something. One of our students here, Uvia, a former student from Azerbaijan, made this comment, made this quote. Looking into his eyes, I saw my own fear, the same rage, the hate that I was feeling in my heart. I stared into his eyes. Even his brother was at the border in the war like mine. Just at that moment, I understood what peace is for me. It is me that is worrying about the brother of my enemy, about his mother and his loved ones who cry on the other side of the conflict like mine. So now when you look at these quotes from the experience that this person had seen, witnessing what was going on in the other side of the conflict, someone she considered as our enemy, it describes what we experience here, because here you live with this person. Probably in your country you would not have, it is forbidden to interact with this person. You eat together, you study together. Currently I'm finalizing my master's in big data. We study together basically. You have conversations, you have dialogues, real-time dialogues, talking about this conflict without any form of biasness. There's no propaganda. So when you have these conversations, you are able to understand, really, this person in front of me is also a victim of war. And this reminds me about what we have two writers in Nigeria. First of all is Niyo Shundari, and he said, we are all victims of war at the end of the day, maybe different victims, but we are all victims. And acknowledging the fact that this other person is human first, and also under a system, suffering from the result of this system, is the first step to targeting this conflict. And also we have Chimamanda, a popular writer, who says that the problem of a single story, where when you have two perspectives at hand, you're able to provide solutions to it. And this is the experience that we are living here in Rondini. It's very practical and it's not biased. So yeah, and that takes me to the third question, where you asked what makes us different, right, from other NGOs. I would say that the campaign for Rondini is not just about it. It's encompassing it. It's about seeing the positivity of conflict, because we cannot take away conflict from humanity. It's not possible. So we are saying we want to manage conflict. We want to manage we want to prevent conflict by true education, and we want to be able to manage the conflict while it's happening. And even after the conflict, you want to also be able to provide solutions. And it is like a link. When you educate, probably you prevent. But if there is, after the conflict, you still go back to education. And this is what makes this campaign and Rondini special. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This was very useful and very concrete. No, the fact that the former enemies live together and actually are ready to have a dialogue and work towards a more peaceful reality is what we need. What we need, and what we are going to be needing more and more. Now, I would love to know if there were some questions, maybe from the audience, from the professor, or from Ms. Joshua, if we had anything, any comments, any curiosities.
Okay, we have a question here from the YouTube chat. It's from Elena. She says, thank you, Professor, for your presentation. I would like to ask if, according to you, there are any cases when the military response is still necessary. Is it okay to finance arms industry for such cases? I think it's for Professor Jordi.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, now with the war in Ukraine, now we have in some way the feeling of that in some situations the military response is the only one, not the only response. But I think that we have if we are positioning ourselves in a place that is really more complex, and we are really trying to have our own thinking based not in what we listen or what we see on TV, in what we really think, and what we really believe in our values, and we are creating our critical thinking. And I insist. So in this case, I think we need to be, and we choose to be pacifist, and we choose the way of nonviolence. So this is our choice. And when we have our choice done, we have a lot to do, a lot more than the traditional military response using weapons and going to kill another one to get a solution. And in fact, but we don't talk about all that. In all conflicts, I would say, we have all kind of responses. We have who is taking weapons and going to fight, but we have the rest of the population doing thousands of things, different things, giving support, helping the others, running away, with health projects, with helping the old people, trying to keep the system alive, trying to keep the political system, even if they are occupied by others, just to be prepared for the day that they will go out, because it happens at the end. So all these kind of responses are coming from nonviolence approach, and they are really human for normal people. So I would say that we don't need to think that there is a need for military response. Let's try to think there is a need for a response, a brave response, and we need to really use our contacts, our knowledge, our imagination to give different responses, and then eliminate from the options the use of the military force, because it's not, even in a war like the war in Ukraine, if the solution is see who is going to win, if at the end who will win will kill, it means that you have make disappear, or you have killed the enemy. No, you have destroyed something, and also you have been destroyed. What you want? There are other ways, I'm sure. And I know that it's difficult now, because normally we're in a position that is difficult defending these positions. But I think, we have the obligation to do it, because you will see in a year, or in 2 years, or in 10 years, when they finish this war, they will look for us and they will say, what do we do now when the disaster is done? What do we do now? Because we were wrong. Yeah, we know now that we are wrong following that way, that path. So no, not finance the industry in any case, my opinion.
Thank you, Professor. There's also another question here we got. It's for Ms. Joshua, but I think also Gala could say something about it. It's, which are the biggest challenges in putting people which were previously enemies, or at least were coming from enemy countries, and then putting them together to live and to dialogue? So which are the biggest challenges you face when you're doing that there in Rondine? So if Joshua or Gala want to say something about it.
Okay, Gala, you want to say something, or I do? Okay. Well, from experience, the challenge I would say is, depending on the other side where you are, is understanding the part that your country plays in the life of the other person. I think this is where it is the hardest to accept, because when you listen to the experience of someone else that he's suffering from the output of what your country is doing, it takes a whole lot of emotions as humans, So this, and then this is where it starts, and then accepting that this is this person's experience. And when you flip the coin as well, being probably the villain or the one suffering, when you also understand the experience of the other person that you feel, this is my victimizer, this is the person from the country I'm suffering from, and this person shares his or her experience, and you realize, wow, this person too is actually a victim of a corrupt system. You know, this getting to get our emotions all around this is the first challenge. And when we are able to overcome this challenge, then it's then easy to see the human. Then we realize actually everyone here is human first and just owns an identity from a place, an identity that cannot be changed, but at least humanity that can be accepted. So this is where I don't know if Gala has something else to add.
Thank you, Wak. That was a very good explanation. Since it's 5 to 5, so maybe if everybody agrees, we can start with closure of the lesson. It was very interesting because we had all different points of view. We had very informative data. Thank you so much, Professor, because the work that you're doing is precious, and I think that we as society have to finally start shifting our perception of the world from being an individual or only being part of our family in our city or our region or our country, towards thinking more about the collective, having a common vision that not only what happens in another country is their problem, but it's also our problem, because the world today is interconnected more and more, and whatever we do has direct consequences to someone else. And thank you so much, Ms. Joshua, for your concrete example of living in such a peaceful environment and bringing forth such a strong message of peace. Thank you everyone for participating, and we hope you liked it. We hope you learned something. We hope that you also start thinking about, as Professor mentioned, in which kind of bank are you using, what kind of a influence do you have on people around you, even without you thinking, but you probably do have. And please stay tuned for our next EoF lesson, which is going to be hosted by Agriculture and Justice Village on the 29th of May. So thank you everyone, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you.